Okay, so Payal, let's go back to sort of the tail end of 2023. What were the series of trigger moments for you that led to you embarking on this transformation journey with us?
Sure. So I would say that at the end of 2023, I was fed up. I was so frustrated about not getting progress despite doing what I thought was so much on my end. So if I can talk a little bit about my journey and kind of how I got there. I have been on a fitness journey probably for the last 6 years now. And 6 years ago was the first time I ever stepped into a gym kind of environment. So I started with, it was a new gym that opened up, if you can even call it a gym. It was HIIT style programming. So it was basically a 10-week challenge that you join, and everybody starts at the same time. And I did this 10-week challenge. It was 5 days of HIIT style workouts. The expectation was you go 5 days a week, and had a 4-stage nutrition plan. So I did that. And back then, 6 years ago, in 10 weeks, I lost 25 pounds. But I did it in all the wrong ways. Like, they immediately cut out food groups. Like, from day one, dairy was cut out and I was vegetarian. So I became vegan overnight. And I was excited, and I would go to these HIIT classes. Within a couple of weeks, I started going twice a day, every day. So of course I lost the weight, it's funny because I read your book in December. I distinctly remember I was going to Mexico on a family trip, and I read your book on the flight. And like, the first chapter talks about, don't do these challenges, and, don't say things like, I can do anything for 10 weeks. Literally, that's what I was saying. I was like, I can do anything for 10 weeks. Oh, I'm 2 weeks in. I have 8 more weeks to go. I have 3 weeks. Literally, I did all of that. Of course, I didn't know any better, right? But I did all of that. So after the 25 pounds I lost, I felt great. I was still 26% body fat. So I wasn't as lean as I am now, which is crazy. I was able to sustain it for a little while because nutrition is king, and I was still doing exercise and stuff. But eventually, the weight did come back, and it's hard when it comes back. So then I joined an amazing gym 3 years ago. For 2 years, I did strength training 5 to 6 days a week. I saw my friends get results, and I was just like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm, putting in all this effort. It feels like I'm eating healthy-ish. In those 2 years, I gained 15 pounds. So imagine you're working out 5 to 6 days a week and you gain 15 pounds. I was extremely frustrated. And then I tried to work out on my own. I tried different things. I hired nutrition coaches. Actually, in the last 3 years, I've hired 3 different ones before I even came to RNT. They were all 3-month programs. And unfortunately, 3 months was not long enough for me. I was not consistent enough for long enough to see results. So by the time I got to RNT, I was just like, I just need a change. I need something different. I liked that it was a 1-year program because then I couldn't stop, right? Like, I couldn't give up on myself. So I think that was the big trigger moment, is just, I don't like where I've gone. I feel like I've done everything on my own, and I've hired people, but it was never a holistic program for me.
Okay. And when you first started trying to lose weight 6 years ago, why did you want to lose weight? Where were you at that point in your life that made you think, right, I need to lose some weight or get fitter?
Sure.
What was going on there?
Yeah. So my whole life I have been underweight. Like,
Underweight.
Growing up, I was significantly underweight growing up.
Okay.
So, just imagine like a typical Indian person growing up, right? Many of us are underweight. There's no focus on nutrition. I ate a lot of snacks growing up, so I never had a proper breakfast or really even a proper lunch, to be honest. Like, dinner was the one meal. But, vegetarian Indian meals are very carb heavy, as you can imagine. But I snacked a lot. I never really ate a lot. So I didn't do anything active growing up, but I played a lot, right? Like, I didn't do sports or anything like that. That's what I mean. I didn't do sports or dance or anything like that, anything formal. But I did still move around a lot. I played a lot, hung out a lot, things like that. And I would say that I grew up very skinny. So even in my 20s, I was very skin. I'll say skinny, not lean, because I didn't have
Mm.
much muscle. I was skinny. Even after I got married, I had my 2 kids. The weight came off pretty quickly. So in my mind, like it was easy. I didn't have to do anything. Never had to step into a gym. It was a nice problem to have, right? I always come back to like around age 35. That's the age that sticks in my mind. Was when the weight started creeping up. And I don't think it's the age thing. I think it's just by then my kids were not babies anymore. I wasn't running around after them. My job involves me sitting at meetings a lot, so I was sedentary a lot. Again, still never had to focus on nutrition. So all that snacking when you're sedentary, like it catches up with you, right? And it wasn't like a lot of weight gain at once. It was creeping up. So honestly, for a long time, I was in denial. Like I didn't even see myself as gaining weight. It was just happening. I was not really fitting into my clothes, but I didn't even notice. I was just still wearing the same clothes when I probably should have been wearing the next size. A lot of people talk about body dysmorphia, right? And when you think of body dysmorphia, you naturally think of people who think of themselves as heavier than they are. I feel like I had the opposite body dysmorphia, where I always thought I was skinny because I was skinny. In my mind, I was skinny because that's how I'd always been. And I was gaining the weight and I was not even aware of it until it became like so blatantly obvious. Like I would look at pictures and I was like, that's me now? Like, so that's where it came like 6 years ago, where I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've gained like 20 pounds or 25 pounds, right? Probably that way more than I should be in my mind. And that was the trigger point back then to say, I need to do something.
I think it's really interesting around the whole denial phase. What sort of things do you do when you're in denial of what's actually going on?
I mean, when you're in denial, you don't even realize, right? Like you just like you continue to wear the same clothes that you've always worn. You like don't even realize, like, gosh, they're a little tight on you. Like maybe you shouldn't be wearing them anymore. It's just I honestly just didn't take. I've never been a picture person, so it's not like I took a ton of pictures. Like, but in the mirror, like I truly didn't realize that I was gaining the weight. Like in my mind, I really thought I was still skinny. So it was interesting until it was so blatantly obvious.
And how did you feel when you saw yourself in those pictures? Like what was going through your mind? And
yeah, I just felt like disappointed. I felt like, how did I get here? Like, where did this happen? It's not, to me, felt like it didn't happen overnight. So like, what happened? What was I doing in all these, 2-3 years that led to this weight gain? And I couldn't believe I like didn't nip it in the bud sooner,
And how did you feel mentally at that time? Like, what was your sort of overall state of mind when you gained this weight and going through this like period of like sedentary lifestyle? Kids had grown up a little bit more. Like, what was going through your mind, like mindset wise?
Yeah, it was frustration. It was a little bit of like, I can't believe that I let it get this far. It was a little bit of kind of want to hide in the shadows a little bit. Don't want to go out, and do things where people see, because I'm just not used to this body. It felt like it was someone else's body that I was in. And just, it made it hard. I felt like it really shook my confidence.
Okay. So then you spent 6 years trying loads of different things to
Yes.
try and get the weight off. You had some success, then lost it, success, lost it. What do you think was missing in the different approaches that you had that never allowed you to sort of, go down and then stay there?
I think what was missing, because now I can look back, right?
Yeah.
I think what was missing was the full picture. So when I did the HIT style program, I went all in. I did everything they asked me to do for 10 weeks. And then I lost it. And then I was like, okay, I lost all the weight. Now I'm going to go do strength training. So then I joined a big box gym, right? A very popular gym here in the States. I joined the gym and I took strength training classes because no one told me that, like, that's not true strength training. I didn't know. So I would literally, I'm not kidding, like, because I was in this mentality of working out 5-6 days a week. I just took that mentality and shifted it to a gym. So now one day I was taking a barbell strength class. One day I was taking a kettlebell class. One day I was doing cardio kickboxing. It was all fun. And to me, I felt great. Like my heart rate was going up. I felt wonderful. So I was like, it's got to be working. But I wasn't paying attention to nutrition. In those 6 years, nobody at any point, because I didn't have a trainer, nobody at any point told me, hey, you have to, like, if you truly want to gain muscle, you have to eat protein. Hey, you have to, do this or do that. Like, so nutrition was just kind of on the back burner. I think I was just able to keep going because the activity was so high. And for so long, the activity was not high, right? So I think my body was just...
You also had a good recovery, like poor nutrition, but yet recovering from 6 intense classes a week.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I was taking so many classes. So I did that, like, just hopping from class to class, did that for a little while. Then I joined this strength training gym where they truly did focus on progressive overload and, amazing gym. Like, I only have good things to say about them. But again, I didn't realize how important nutrition was. So I was probably getting 30 to 40 grams of protein a day because nobody told me. And that's what a normal vegetarian diet is, right? If you're not focused on it. So when I did hire the nutrition coaches, again, it was only nutrition though. I was still going to that gym. It wasn't all connected. So the nutrition coaches were just giving me nutrition advice, not really looking at how much I was working out or what I was doing. I was definitely not drinking enough water. There were so many things missing that I think that's the one thing I will say RNT gave me is it's truly a full picture where over the last 6 years, I was improving pieces of the picture.
Yeah. And what made you think in like the middle of 2023 or towards the end of 2023 that, right, what I've done nutrition, that didn't work, I've done workouts, that didn't work, I need to now combine them. Like, was that on your mind, or like were you actively looking for something that had it all, or did you just stumble across this and think, oh, this looks like the thing?
I knew that what I was doing wasn't working, and I knew that I was improving things like piecemeal. Like, so actually it's funny, like the past 2 to 3 years, I've probably on Instagram, I've probably been following like 30 coaches. And I could probably spit out to you all the right terms, progressive overload and, tracking your macros and all that stuff. And I tried all of that myself. Like I was tracking things on my fitness pal myself. So I had all the knowledge, but I didn't know how to put it all together. So like if I was fixing nutrition, I was only fixing nutrition. If I was fixing water, then I got fixated on water. Like I didn't know how to navigate all of it at the same time. I thought I was doing it, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
So like I was following all these coaches, RNT being, one of the companies that I was following for so long. And I kept like, it was almost analysis paralysis. I kept trying different things and I was like, okay, maybe this will work and maybe this will work. And, my husband even said it. He's like, you're constantly looking for more information and not just doing something for a long period of time. He's like, you just keep adding new things. How do you know what will work if you just keep adding new things? Like you're not following anything for long enough period of time to see if it could result in something. I was just getting frustrated with myself. So I felt like I kept starting from square one over and over.
Wise man, your husband. So you came across RNT towards the end of the year. You decided to take the plunge. What did you need to change in your mind to be able to commit to something as all in as RNT? Because it's not just nutrition, it's not just workouts, it's a lifestyle change, and with that comes ultimately a mindset change. Like, what did you have? What sort of conversations are you having yourself? What did you have to prepare for yourself mentally to be able to think, right, I'm now going to go all in on multiple areas. I'm going to change my lifestyle and how I live, how I socialize, how I eat, whatever it may be. What was like the initial sort of mindset preparation? Maybe on that trip to Mexico, if the sort of wheels started turning. What was going on in your mind then?
Yeah, what was going on was I'm fed up. I'm tired. I've been doing this for a while and I've never gotten into the shape that I wanted to get into. Even when in my 20s, when I was skinny, I wasn't lean or fit. I was just skinny fat, so I just felt like, I've signed up for this and I'm just going to give it my all. And reading your book on that plane ride was the best thing I did because it really resonated with me of all the things I was feeling and all the things that you said you shouldn't do. Those are all the things I did in the last 6 years. Every single thing you listed was things that I did, and I was just like, oh my God, like literally this has been my journey. And, the book really laid out for me all the things to expect. And I think mentally that made things a lot easier. I'm a planner. So for me, I like knowing what's coming ahead and what the journey means. So I think that helped me a lot too. I also liked, in the book you mentioned, people always say they don't have enough time. And I felt like that for a long time too. It's like, oh my gosh, this is all taking up so much time. And you really nail in the book that one, first of all, if you think you don't have time, look at your phone and where your time is spent, on social media and things like that. And I had just seen a post on Instagram from another coach saying the same thing. They said, when a new client comes to me and they say, I don't have time, the first thing I ask them is, show me your screen time and I'll tell you where to free up the time. Because I was scrolling through Instagram and Facebook and God knows what, like we waste time all the time, so I really, on that plane ride, actually, I put screen time on my social media. I took it off. And I spent that whole trip in Mexico with no screen time. And I was like, this is fabulous. Like, I do have a lot of time and like I could really be present. And I carried that in when I came back. So, I came back and I still had a few weeks before I started with RNT. But I think that really helped, like already seeing that I had freed up the time by giving myself these limits on my phone. And the other thing you wrote about in the book was just in the journey, like it's like climbing a mountain, right? Like initially you're so motivated and then you get through this lull period and stuff. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to get through the lull. I'm not going to have a lull period. I'm not, I'm going to be like, I'm gung ho. Because you're excited, right? You're like embarked on this journey. And of course, it's especially in December, that whole new year, new you thing. It's like motivation is sky high. And I just thought like, that's not going to happen to me. But every stage in that book also happened to me too. So it's very interesting. But one thing I do want to stress is like I tried so many things. And that's what I feel like that just helped me when I started RNT, because I always say this to my friends, like, I feel like, so I actually went back and listened to or read my text messages with the very first nutrition coach I hired 2.5 years ago. So it was for 3 months, I hired her and I read back the text. And she didn't tell me anything different than what my RNT coach told me, right? I was just not ready to listen to it back then. Mm-hmm. So back then it was very much like, well, I want variety and I want to do this and I want to be able to go out to eat. And I didn't understand back then that fat loss is a season and you just have to make these changes and commitments for a season. Like it's not the rest of your life. I think diet culture is so big right now that everybody thinks that this is forever. And I didn't understand that back then. So I went back and I was like, gosh, she was literally telling me the same thing. I was just not ready to listen to her back then. And I wanted all these things. It's all about what I wanted. It was me, me, me. Whereas now me has changed and me is willing to make more changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do you think changed in terms of, like, you're talking about being coachable, aren't you? Ultimately.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Why do you think you weren't coachable back then? And what changed about your mindset that allowed you to become someone who's receptive to feedback and a different way of doing things? Like, for example, not having excess variety at the start of a diet, which still to this day is like the one thing people are like, really? Like, is that really going to work? Talk about that.
Yeah, probably because I hired 3 different coaches before, and I kept talking about the variety and how I wanted the variety, and I wanted this and I wanted that, and ultimately I wasn't getting the results. So this time, my mindset was, I'm really gonna, whatever I'm told, I'm gonna try it and see if that works, And so when that in the beginning of RNT, when you have the CTP phase, right, and you're eating this similar foods, for me it was refreshing, because the other thing that resonated with me in the book was how you were talking about how it takes away the mental load, right? The anguish. Like I truly was feeling anguish about what to cook and what to eat. And it was taking up so much of my time to do that. So I made this plan so super foolproof for me. Like every meal takes less than 15 minutes to make. So all my veggies are the frozen steam and bag veggies. I just throw them in the microwave. Now that may not work for other people, but my priority was to make it as simple as possible so that that doesn't cause me stress. And I can make the vegetables tasty with seasonings and things like that. So I change it up with seasonings, but I didn't want to sit there and spend like 30 to 40 minutes cooking, knowing that now I have to make different meals for my kids. It's a lot of work to do that, you know.
Well, if we could just touch on that, that would be really useful.
Yeah.
So what sort of strategies did you use to sort of streamline your meals into 15 minutes whilst also considering the kids as well? Because that's often a blocker of like, I don't want to cook 3 meals for the family. I don't want to spend my life in the kitchen. I've also got work and I've got a couple young kids. So what strategies did you have that helped you at the beginning, especially?
Yeah. So I think the number one thing that I did was start making so my meals were not changing, right? So I already had the plan from RNT, from my coach, of what I was going to eat. And I was like, okay, what can I do to make this as simple as possible? So initially in the first 2 weeks, I had rice, for example. So I batch cooked the rice and knew how to weigh it out and separate the rice. Made that super easy. Vegetables, all frozen vegetables.
Okay.
Just literally throw them in the microwave for 5 minutes. While they're in the microwave for 5 minutes, I'll prepare the protein or whatever it is. So I know people do different strategies. For me, I don't like to be in the kitchen all day Sunday meal prepping. I work from home a lot, so that helps. So what I do is I just have a few things ready if I need to, but mostly like everything is just I can cook it within less than 15 minutes.
If we go back to like CTP and sort of the early days of your RNT journey, what were some of the biggest challenges and obstacles for you outside of the sort of, once you find that rhythm with cooking, what were some of the challenges and obstacles that you found personally that you had to overcome, either mentally, whether it was from a logistical perspective, process, or whatever it was?
Yeah. So, it was interesting because when I first started, when I got the first meal plan and then I put all this food together, it was too much food. It was, but now I know, listening to other people that started as well, like that's the challenge for a lot of people that start. I think we all think that when we're starting a coaching program in a fat loss stage, like you're going to be hungry. And I wasn't. It was just like I had to tell Chloe's my coach, and I had to tell Chloe like how many messages I had where I was, Chloe, this is too much food. I can't eat this food. It's too much, you know. And so that was the first thing, was just getting over the mental hurdle of, gosh, this is so much quantity. Probably because I was not used to eating volume-based food, right? Like I was eating chips before and Oreos. Like those calories don't go very far. So the quality of the food, those calories go a lot further, I think, because it's volume based. So it felt like so much food. And I was just like, I physically cannot eat this. Two, I don't know why, somewhere in my life, and my husband is the same way. So really trying to learn. So Chloe put rice in my program. I had not had rice for years. So in my mind, rice, like, sounds dumb now to say it, but rice causes diabetes. So in my mind, like my dad had diabetes. My dad passed away 5 years ago. He had diabetes. He had a whole host of health issues. But like, so in my mind, like some foods, like I just never ate white rice. And I was just like, she put white rice in my program. Not only did she put it in my program, she put it for lunch and dinner. And I was like, you want me to eat rice? Like, are you like, I don't eat rice, you know? But I did it for the 2 weeks. I actually don't love rice. So she was wonderful. And we, tweaked the plan to fit my needs and what I liked. But so some of those things, like just getting over the mental hurdle of things that you thought you couldn't even eat, it's like, kind of sad if you look back at it. Like you think to yourself, like she didn't put potatoes in my plan, but I'm pretty sure if she put potatoes in my plan, it would have been the same reaction. I would have been like, I don't eat potatoes. And I just didn't eat rice and potatoes for years. But there's nothing wrong with them. I didn't know. Right.
Yeah. It's weird when you say, I was eating chips and Oreos before, but when it comes to rice and potatoes, you're like, no rice and potatoes.
Yeah, right? That's crazy. But I didn't eat rice for years. And I almost felt guilty eating it because it just, to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, South Asians like eat rice and you get diabetes. And those are the kinds of things that were conditioned in my head.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you got going, you were through cleaning the palate into the process phase, and then life gets in the way, right? You had the dip that always comes. Life happens, social events, things that may be perceived positive, negative, whatever it may be. How did you deal with the happenings of life while still staying focused on where you wanted to get to with your health and fitness? Especially now you were sort of away from that 10-week, 2 pounds a week mindset. It was more, right, let me actually build this a lifestyle change. How did you approach that from a mindset perspective of navigating this while still staying on track?
Yeah. So initially, I will say the bumps came, and they were eye opening. So initially, very early on, right, post CTP, very early on, there were social events. I actually distinctly remember a good friend of mine had a cheese tasting, and I told Chloe, I was like, "Oh, my friend's having a cheese tasting, or I'm not going to have a lot of cheese, but I want to have some cheese. I want to participate." Even some cheese is very calorie dense, right? So participating in it, and I enjoyed it. And that week, I can't remember if the weight went up a little bit or if it stayed the same, right? But when you're looking at the week to week averages, at least for me, I don't know how everybody else is. For me, when I didn't see that drop week to week, mentally it was tough, right? It's like, gosh, like I did everything right all those other days, and it was probably this one day that threw me off, and kept me in maintenance or whatever it may be. And there was another week similarly where I had a slice of pizza, and same thing, like the weight went up a little bit or it maintained, I can't remember, but the week to week average didn't come down. And mentally it was hard because you get so excited week to week when that average is coming down. And then when it doesn't, you're just like, but I had to self-reflect really and say, well, the coach is not telling me I can't eat anything. She's just setting my expectations to say, if you choose to do that, then just know your journey will take a little bit longer. So then I had to reflect and say, what do I want for myself? Do I want this to take longer and enjoy these things in the moment? Or do I want to get in and get out? Which is a lot of what we talk about in the coaching calls. And that's when I said, I just want to be done with this stage. I don't want to, keep yo-yoing in the week to week. It's not what I liked seeing. So I think that's what helped shape my mindset is I was seeing it. Like I was seeing the direct correlation between what I was putting into my mouth and what was happening on the scale averages week to week. And I didn't like it. So I was like, well, only I can change that then. So that's on me to change it. And that's what I did. I started saying, it's not about the food, it's about the company. So I started saying I can still go to the social events, but then I have to pick and choose what I want to get out of it. So if it's the conversation, then I'm going to focus on the conversation. It's not about the food. And Chloe helped me a lot with that mindset and helping me understand that, what do you want? What is the intent of this social gathering for you? Is it about the food or is it about the company and the conversations and things like that? So I think that was huge for me to do that.
Can you share a few more examples on that? Because I think this is one of the biggest blockers people face is like, I don't want to feel left out. I don't want to feel, not integrated into my friends and family. I don't want to say no to these things, become a recluse, take my Tupperware to meals. Like, all these things are like people's fears around what could be a life-changing transformation. Like, what were some of the things that worked for you? Some examples of social events that you had, and you think, looking back, you're like, oh, I can't believe I actually did that. And that's really cool. Or this really helped and my friends were understanding. Like, I think some examples here that are unique to you would be cool.
Yeah. So I will say one thing I want to say is I've been doing some of these things on my own even before I got to RNT. So I think that helped. Like, it's not like my mind shift, like I joined RNT and my mindset shifted overnight, right? I think it shifted incrementally, but some of the things I was already doing. So some of the things over the past year that I've done, which I think has helped me tremendously, is I had a couple of friends that I was meeting just for walks. Like we just met for walks. Like we didn't meet for any meal related things. But then when I joined RNT, because I had to get those 10,000 steps, I met more friends for walks, and like some friends just knew, hey, she's on this journey. Like they supported me. Then they just knew she's just going to meet me for walks, and that's how we're going to catch up. So
did they just know, or did you have a conversation with them?
Well, I had the conversation, meaning I'm on this journey. I'm not eating out right now. So they were supportive and saying, she's going to be my friend that we're going to go on walks with.
And what did you say when they say like, oh, why? How would you approach it? And the reason I ask is like, because I think this is an important part of the process of like telling your friends and family what you're doing and why. So walk me through like a heads up conversation of this with your loved ones.
So I would just simply say, I joined this coaching program. I'm really excited. I feel like, I've tried, a lot of my close friends knew I've been doing something for so long and frustrated, right? It's not like it was a secret that I was frustrated. So I think people already knew that I was frustrated, but I said, I joined this coaching program. I'm really focusing on myself. I've made a decision not to eat out right now. And I still want to catch up with you. This is important to me to maintain our friendship. And, I would love it if we could meet for walks instead. And you'd be surprised. People don't say no to that. I think we all get into our heads, but people don't say no to that, they were very open to it, so friends. So my favorite story is my closest friend. One of my closest friends lives an hour away. And she's a pediatrician. So she has Tuesdays off from her schedule. Every Tuesday she's off. And I work from home on Tuesdays. So she texts me Tuesday morning and she's like, when do you have a break in your schedule? So then I'll tell her, when I can walk during the day. And we literally have a phone walk and talk date every Tuesday. And that's how we catch up. And it's like she walks where she is, I walk where I am, and we're talking on the phone. And I'm getting my steps, she's getting her steps, and has nothing to do with meeting up for a meal. Like, it's awesome. And we both look forward to it.
Amazing. Amazing. What made you decide you wanted to do a photo shoot?
I've never done professional photos for anything. Like, I didn't do an engagement shoot. I didn't do a maternity shoot. I felt like this was something that I was working so hard for, and it was just for myself, like not for anyone else. And I just thought to myself, I don't love photos. It's completely out of my realm, comfort zone to do something like this. And I wanted to just do it. Like, I just wanted to celebrate a journey that I feel like I worked so hard for. And I just knew I had to do it. And I'm so glad I did it. It was definitely out of my comfort zone, but it was so much fun.
Amazing. And what do you learn about yourself en route to your photo shoot? So going through the grind, going through the period where, you're really pushing yourself. What do you learn about yourself that you didn't know, or you surprised yourself on?
What you learn about yourself is you can do hard things. And you can push yourself to a limit that you never thought you could push yourself to. So in the grind, the grind for me was probably about four weeks, I would say. And so most of my process stage, I was at 10,000 steps. And then on my own, I increased myself to 12 and a half, just for myself. I just did that because I like to walk. So, I'm just like, that's the easiest thing I can control. Probably shouldn't admit this on air, but in the beginning I had one day of cardio and I wasn't doing it. I hated cardio, and I was like, I really don't want to do cardio. So I was doing my strength training because I love strength training. I love my steps. So I increased my steps. And then in the grind, Chloe increased my steps. I think she increased them to like 12 and a half. And I was like, you know what? I've already been doing 12 and a half. I'm going to do 15K. So I did that for myself. I was just challenged myself to put myself at 15K. Then, I told her I was doing 15K. So she moved me to 15K. And then the last 2 weeks, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do 20K. Like, I just kept upping myself. But it was like, it almost became a little game. It was like fun to do. It was just like, how much can I push myself? By then, activity was very high. Cardio had gone up. Strength training had gone up. So what I learned was I actually love a lot of activity, apparently. And I liked the structure and the intensity. Actually, I was on a coaching call this morning where I actually said, like, now post checkpoint, I'm struggling a little bit because I got so used to that intensity and I really enjoyed it. I thrived on it, that now I'm like still trying to hold on. I think I want more intensity and I don't know how to let go.
Interesting. And have you picked up cardio yet, or are you still not fan of
So what I've learned through this process is I don't hate cardio. I just don't like certain types of cardio. So I don't like sitting on an exercise bike for 30 minutes. That doesn't work for me. I find it extremely boring. I've never been a runner anyway. So like anything steady state for 30 minutes, I can't do. But when I started doing cardio classes, like I just love community. I love the camaraderie. I like the class feel. So for cardio, that's what seems to work for me. I really enjoy that. So I learned I didn't hate cardio. I just had to find the cardio that worked for me.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, and how describe your photo shoot day? How did you feel when you saw the pictures for the first time? You saw yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, so photo shoot day was fun. It was interesting. So I went. So the day before, actually, I went and got a spray tan, which in and of itself was very interesting because I'm like, I'm brown. Brown people don't get spray tans, But I was like, I'm doing this photo shoot. It's recommended. I'm going to try it. So I remember even calling and setting up that appointment. I was like, I don't want to get too dark. Are you sure I'm not going to get too dark? And they're like, no, you'll be fine. So I went in. It was a lot of fun to do that. So that was the day before the photo shoot. And then the day of the photo shoot in the morning, I went for hair and makeup. And honestly, I felt like a celebrity because I had two people working on me at the same time. Like that's never happened. Where someone's doing my hair, somebody's doing my makeup. And so that was fun. And then the shoot happened. And during the photo shoot, like just doing all the different poses and, changing the outfits and stuff. Never done anything like that. Right. So it was just a lot of fun to go through something like that where it's just about you and celebrating all the work that you've done, right, to get there and just having fun with it too. Like it wasn't, my photo shoot wasn't like very stringent, if you will. It was fun. Like I brought poses that I wanted to do. The photographer had poses that she wanted me to try. And we just had fun with it. So it was a couple of hours and it was a lot of fun. And actually Chandani, who's a fellow RNTer, she came with me on my photo shoot. So we did some photos together. Like she told me like, hey, like change your pose a little bit here and there. So it's really nice to have that support too.
Amazing. Amazing. How's the physical being the vehicle for you, Payal?
Gosh, it's been quite the journey. It's been like the confidence that I've gained from this process has been something else. Like, one, I'll start with the photo shoot. Like I would never have done something like that before. Never. Like I said, I never did photos before. Like it's just not something I would have considered. So to put myself out there to do something like that was like to have the confidence. Two, I think a lot of women could probably appreciate this. Even in my 20s, I never like went around wearing crop tops or sports bras. Like I just didn't, even when I was skinny, I didn't have the body confidence that I have now. Like now I can go into a gym with a sports bra on. To me, that's huge. I've never have done anything like that. Like I was always covering up, and now I like just day to day, I can walk around with a crop top on and stuff like that. And I feel more confident in my body. Like it's just brought that on in me. Just the love of fitness and just being active, like every weekend, if the weather is not 95 degrees here in the US, if it's not, burning hot, when the weather is nice, like I think to myself, what can I do that's outside? Can I go for a hike or can I go biking or what can I do that brings me outdoors? And just that being one with nature, just I've realized makes me so happy and brings me peace and joy. And just the level of confidence in doing adventurous things. So I'm sure you saw last Tuesday while we were in Florida, I went skydiving. So something that's been on my list for, over a decade. And I kept saying, yeah, I'll do it someday. But I think if you asked me a few years ago, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I think this confidence honestly brought that on where, two other people were going and I immediately was like, well, sign me up. I want to go, and my husband is the more adventurous one. I grew up as the timid, like, just like I said, I didn't do sports. Actually should have mentioned this before. I didn't even learn how to ride a bicycle until I was 38 years old. Like after that first fat loss stage, doing it all the wrong ways, that's what motivated me to learn how to ride a bicycle as an adult. Because my kids had just learned how to ride a bike. And I was like, I want to learn how to ride a bike. So I still don't know how to swim. That's next on my list. But like I said, two other people were going skydiving and I was like, sign me up. And he's like, are you sure about this? And he ultimately ended up signing up too. But that was definitely not something that was on his list. So I think it's been nice to just embrace some adventure too. It's just not like 10 years ago, me would never have anticipated that I would be doing these things.
Amazing, amazing. And how does it feel like on the other side of it, where you spent 6 years trying to get the results that you always wanted to, and you finally sort of got there? How does that feel inside? Do you feel like a sense of, is it relief, or is it, what is the emotion that's running through your head? Is it one less thing to think about?
Yeah, I would say if I could sum it up in 2 words, it feels surreal and I feel grateful. Like I wake up every morning and I feel like surreal. I mean, it really feels surreal. Like it works so long and so hard to try to achieve something and I just couldn't. And I was so frustrated and I couldn't get there. And now to actually like look in the mirror and look back and think, gosh, I finally got to where I wanted to go to. And I still have ways to go, where I ultimately want to achieve in terms of muscle growth and things like that. But so it feels surreal and I feel very grateful. I just feel very like, you can be doing a lot of things. And I was doing a lot of things before and they weren't working. So now to finally find a program where it worked and you can look back and say, yes, it worked, and, I think, a lot of people at the surface will think, when this story comes out or when, if any, before and after pictures come out, I don't want people to think and look at it and say, gosh, she accomplished this in 5 months, because I didn't accomplish it in 5 months. I think, yes, on the surface, it looks like that because when you see the before and after photos, there will be a 5-month time span, but it's years of mindset shifts that got me here, right? So it's years of like little changes that got me to where I am. Like for years, I was meal prepping. I have a grocery list and meal preps and things like that I've been doing for years that got me there. It's not like I just started doing that in January. I've been doing that for years. I just had to figure out what my triggers were and what was causing me stress, which was I don't enjoy cooking for, an hour or making multiple meals and things like that. So I had to find what made it simple for me. I think the 2 years at the gym that I was just saying, where I spent 5 to 6 days strength training, that gave me the ultimate, like the basis of working out. So I think if I joined RNT a couple of years ago, I would have struggled personally because I don't know if I would have felt comfortable going. I work out at home. I should have mentioned that. I work out in my basement. I have a home gym in my basement. I don't think I would have had the confidence or the comfort level to just all of a sudden do these strength training exercises, right? Like I've already built that base of form and things like that. And don't get me wrong, Chloe corrected my form on everything. Like I would send her videos and she would literally come back and correct my form on everything. I'm like, Chloe, I feel like I've been doing this for 3 years and you corrected it, and she would explain, like what I love about her is she would explain this is what you're working out with this exercise. And this is the target muscle. And this is what you should be feeling. Because I think that really helps a lot. I think the other thing you didn't ask this question, but I think people need to hear this is there is this hesitation for going with online coaching because you're afraid you're not talking to your coach all the time. You're not in the same country as your coach or whatever it may be. It's online. I had those hesitations, just like, how is online coaching going to work? And it's been a non-issue. I mean, it's really like she's corrected my form. She's explained everything to me. She's helped me with mindset on nutrition. Doesn't matter where she is, right? It's just the more you pour in, you'll get so much more back. And that's the other thing I did. I told myself I was going to really give it my all. And I write her novels. I do. And she writes me novels back. And like that relationship that we built is so important because I feel comfortable that I can tell her when something triggers me, like my mom said this, and this is how I felt. Like that relationship came with time, and it came because I didn't put up a barrier, right? Like we didn't know each other, but you have to put something in to get something out, and she can't help me if she doesn't know what's going on in my mind.
And how do you get over that barrier of, I don't know this person, they're on the other side of the world. How can they help me? They don't know my life. What when you say like you're going to pour it all out, like what does that look like from a process perspective in the build up to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just trust, right? You've already committed to this program. Why not go all in? Like, what do you have to lose, right? if you don't go all in and you're just piecemeal making changes, then your progress will be slower too, right? It may take you, like, you'll get there eventually, hopefully. It may take you a year, it may take you more than a year, but the more you give up front and the more trust you have in the process, I think the results will show for themselves. Like, that's why I say, like, don't look at my before and after and think, gosh, it'll be 5 months for anybody, because everybody's journey will be different, right? I literally poured everything into this and I wanted to. So I think for somebody else, it might be a year, because you have to do those mindset shifts for yourself and you have to get there. But yeah, it was trust. It was just knowing that I have nothing to lose. The more I give her, the more she'll understand me and the inner workings of what I'm going through.
A few times you mentioned like understanding triggers or identifying triggers. Like, what sort of triggers have you learned about yourself, whether emotionally or stress induced, that has impacted, or you think, oh, this is one of the reasons why I've struggled with nutrition? Or, you know, what are some of these things you've identified? And they're probably not yet resolved because it takes time. But like, what are you thinking? Oh, this is interesting. Like, I didn't know about this about myself, or this is always putting me back.
Yeah, that's a great question, Akash. So actually, I did learn. So I'm not a stress eater, which is good.
Yeah.
But what I have noticed is when work gets really busy. So this July time period for me for years has been my really busy time period. So what I've noticed is when work is really busy, and this like I was in this perpetual, just like spinning my wheels all the time. So when work gets busy, what ends up happening that I've noticed that I do is I'm on these conference calls and meetings and things like that. I don't eat at my set times, and I didn't have like simple meals before. I didn't have meals prepared before. So of course, then I forget about eating, and then 2 or 3 o'clock rolls around. Then of course, then I reach for a snack, and then 5 o'clock rolls around or 5:30 rolls around, and I'm famished at that point, right? Because I haven't really fueled my body at all, barely moved, haven't fueled my body, haven't been drinking much water throughout the day. So as I'm making dinner, my healthy dinner that I'm making for the family, on the side, I'm eating my chips and my Oreos because I'm so hungry, and that's a quick fix, right? It's just coming into my body. And then what happened was I would kind of fill myself up with that a little bit. So then I wouldn't eat that much of dinner. Mm-hmm. And then when my husband and I would watch TV, of course, I'd be hungry again, because it was like a vicious cycle of not fueling your body properly. But you wouldn't know that in the surface, because you see I'm making this healthy meal, but I'm not eating enough of it because I filled myself up with garbage before and I filled myself up with garbage after. Yeah. I shouldn't call it garbage because nothing is bad food, but you know what I mean? So what I've learned through this process is like being prepared wins you the game. Like it really wins you the game. Like, one, making my meals super simple, but I now know, because there's still busy periods, right? I now know, oh, I feel hungry. I'm not hungry for a snack. I'm just hungry. So now I know, okay, my lunch is only going to take me 10 minutes to make, but I'm so hungry right now. My mind is thinking, reach for the Oreos or whatever. So I reach for the apple. So, but you have to do that consciously, right? You have to know that. So I reach for the apple. It's on my plan anyway. So I reach for the apple. And then while I'm eating the apple, I make lunch and I tell myself lunch is coming. Or sometimes proactively, I know I look ahead to the next day and I know when the meetings are. So I make sure breakfast is ready and I could be on a call eating my breakfast. So it's knowing those things, but that requires a lot of being self-aware and having a lot of self-talk with yourself. And that's important because that is what's going to win the game for you, because otherwise you'll just constantly be like, if you're hungry, by the time you're hungry, it's too late. Like, you have to have that awareness to know that you're not hungry for these specific foods. You're just hungry.
Yeah. Well, what you're describing is breaking bad habits and just that perpetual habit of what you just said, the Oreos and chips whilst you're waiting for the main meal to be done, and then you're stuffed, and then you eat later on. So when it comes to like these bad habits, you know, you'd have heard me talk about, once the prize is gone, the photo shoot's over, you haven't got that sort of checkpoint to work towards, and now you're trying to build this lifestyle solution. You've got to rewire a lot of these things, build the new behaviors, the mindset, identity. What have been some of your learnings in consolidation and now into investment? So we talked about this 5 month timeline. That was the point to your checkpoint, which was around sort of end of May, early June, right? And then we're sort of now
end of June, yeah,
end
6
of
weeks
June,
in.
end of June, yeah. So we're 6 to 8 weeks in. What has been the consolidation period been like so far?
Yeah, so consolidation. So in my mind, again, I thought, well, consolidation is going to be a breeze. It's going to be easy. 2 weeks, that's all I need. I'll be out of consolidation. 6 weeks in, I'm still in consolidation in my mind, because what happened was, so right after my photo shoot, I actually didn't even go out for a meal. I just had a small little treat, and I just knew I wasn't ready to let go of the control just yet. So for that first week after photo shoot, I actually stayed right with my plan, like nailed the plan. Still kept activity high. I told Chloe, like, I'm not ready to bring it. Like, I can't go from 100 to 30. I just know that won't work for me. So I kept my activity pretty high. And then I knew I had a holiday planned a week after the photo shoot. So even in the holiday, I purposely planned it to book a condo. So we had a kitchen and I could control some of the meals.
You did make the mistake I made.
Well, I read that from your book.
And,
And I think what also helped is, we have these WhatsApp groups for people who are going to do the photo shoot, right? And there were two gentlemen who had their photo shoot before me, and they shared some of their learnings that, they reverted back a little bit and what it did for them mentally. And I think because I already knew that, I knew I wanted to keep more control in. And that's why I did it that way. It was like very intentional to do it that way. But I'll be honest with you, Akash, like even on vacation, right, with the amount of control, like you would laugh at if I wish I had taken a picture of the amount of coolers I took on this trip with all this. It was a driving trip, and I took all these coolers of stuff because I planned on making these meals, and I did. But even with that, like even just being on vacation with my family, like every night there was a treat. There was like a little cupcake, and there was a cookie here, and it's like, what is it about being on vacation that all of a sudden, like, you allow yourself to have all these things that you didn't before, right? And actually, even when we came back from vacation that first week, like things were creeping in, right? Because it's like vacation just continued, and those things were still creeping in. Like I was still having a cookie, one cookie a night, and like on the surface, it doesn't look like a big deal, but it is. Like those things do add up over time. Like it's reverting back to some habits, right? So I had to self-reflect and say, okay, why am I doing that? Like, why does vacation allow me to think that I would do something different and things like that? So that was one.
what was the answer on that?
It's just a habit. That's the answer. I did it because it's a habit. Why do we go to the movies and immediately want popcorn? It's just wired into our brain that we think we want that, but why? So actually, we did go to the movies a couple of months ago, and I brought Greek yogurt with me, and I didn't have the popcorn. It's like, but it requires a lot from you to be self-aware and to rewire yourself to do that. And I'm willing to do that. Like a lot of people may not want to do that. So I think for anybody that wants a change, you have to really be honest with yourself to say, how much are you willing to change? Because you have to change this. If I can leave anybody with anything, nothing about this transformation or this process is accidental. It's very intentional, and it has to be very intentional, because otherwise everybody would be fit and lean and look a certain way, right? It requires work, and you have to be willing to put the work in. So I would say 6 weeks post checkpoint, the biggest takeaway I've had is, so I think I mentioned to you, July is my busiest time at work. It's crazy. So life, unfortunately, got right in the way post checkpoint, and my steps went down. My strength training pretty much went to zero. But the one thing I knew I was going to control was nutrition, and I'm so glad I did that, because 6 weeks post checkpoint, I am still photo shoot weight, and I've had barely any activity. Like my steps were 4,000 to 5,000. Like I hate to admit it, but it's the truth. My strength, I didn't do any strength training or cardio, but I was able to, like, nutrition truly is king. And I've stayed with my plan. I eat the same things over and over, and it works for me because when work is busy, like the last thing I want to do is think about making 5 different meals, right? Like I just know this works. These are the quantities. It's wired into my brain, and I just do it. And with the social events, I've chosen not to go to restaurants to eat, but if there's events with like parties and friends, I won't bring a Tupperware. I'll just follow the 1 plate rule, and I'll make sure if I don't have enough protein, then I'll make sure I make up for it before or after. Okay. So that's kind of how I've done it.
Nice. Where do you see your investment phase going? Like, have you started thinking about what you want to get out of your investment phase? What sort of avatar you want to represent? Like, what sort of journey you want to take? Okay, go.
Yes. I want to do the lean. I think it was called lean build.
Lean builder. Yeah.
So I want to do that. I've always loved strength training. So I even like in the process phase, I'd already set goals that I wanted to do an investment. So I want to work towards a pull-up. I want to be able to do a pull-up. I still can't do full body push-ups more than 1 or 2. So I want to be able to do those consistently. And then me personally, I've always just loved bench presses, and I struggle with that a lot, like moving up in weight. So I want to be able to have the strengths and the very tangible goals of what I want to achieve. What I didn't anticipate and what I'm struggling with a little bit right now is by the end of the grind, my strength went down considerably. And I know that's expected, meaning like the amount of weights I could do went down considerably. And that has been hard for me. It's almost been like right now I'm in this weird stage where I'm like, I don't want to strength train because I mentally hate that the weights went down so much. So I mentioned that in the coaching call this morning, and the coach basically said think of it as like driving a car. You don't forget how to drive a car. It'll come back. And it'll come back faster than you think. So I think I just need to get over that mental hurdle and just get back to it. And
it usually takes like 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, the reason why I say 2 to 4 weeks for you is because you had the busy month of July. It might just take a little bit longer because you've had a longer break. But it comes back quick, especially if you've got a lot of strength training experience. So definitely don't delay that.
Yeah. So I think I'm getting in my own way at the moment.
And why do you want to? Why is strength important to you? Why do you want to be a lean builder?
Because I don't want to just be a smaller version of myself. Like I want to have that toned physique, right? And that toned, I think a lot of people think toned means just getting skinnier, but it's not. There has to be muscle to reveal underneath, and I have to build the muscle, right? So now I have become leaner, and yes, there is some muscle, but I want to have more muscle to show. Also, like being a woman, like with each like I'm in my early 40s. With each decade, we lose more and more muscle, right? And I just know from experience, seeing aunts or just family friends and things like that, osteoporosis and things like that. Just I'm afraid of that. I kind of alluded to it before. My father passed away 5 years ago. He was not even 70 years old. My mom is 71, and she's not in the best health, and it scares me. Like genetics are not on my side. So I want to be able to control as much as I can on my own that I can. I know I can't undo genetics. Whatever is going to come may come. But if I can do my part and strength train and be active and eat the right foods, and why not?
Yeah. And from a health perspective, I think recently you got a scan done on your body composition. What was some of the results there that you so pleasantly surprised by?
Yes, that was awesome. So I did an in-body scan, and I know those are not super accurate, but I use them for trend purposes. So I had done one last year, well before I started RNT. I think it was last summer or last May or so. And then I just did one a couple of days ago, and it was amazing. So I think it was 33% body fat in the before, and I was 20% body fat in the one from a few days ago. And what was amazing to me was that 6 years ago, when I told you I lost all that weight in the wrong ways, and I was similar weight, just a couple pounds more. But back then, I was 25% body fat. So like It was amazing. I've never been 20 ever. Like, so it works. The process works. You have to put in the work, right? Coaching will give you the tools and the guidance, but ultimately you have to do all the work. And it was just so nice to see that and feel like everything that has happened over the last 5-6 months, and all the years leading up to it, like it resulted in something, that I'm really proud of.
If you were speaking to someone right now who's early on in their journey, thinking about the journey, what piece of advice would you love to give them right now?
I would say, I'm not going to say, I know a lot of people will say, just do it. I'm not one of those people that's going to say, just do it. I think you have to self-reflect and think where you are in your stage of life to see what your stressors currently are. Because ultimately coaching will give you the tools and will give you the guidance. But coaching is not teaching you something that we don't already know. Like we know you have to drink the water, you have to take the steps, you have to work out. You have to be coachable. You have to be able to make changes. Like the transformation is not accidental. It doesn't happen by chance. It happens with very, intentional habits that you're changing. You have to self-reflect a lot. You have to really dig deep and figure out what your stressors are and what your triggers are and how you're going to react to them. So I would say, really self-reflect and figure out if this is a season of life where you can make those changes. And if you're willing to make those changes, and if you are willing to make those changes, then absolutely do it. 100% do it. I've gotten so much more than I would have ever imagined. Like I think back to that plane ride in December when I was reading that book, I would never have guessed that I'd get here. Like, because I'd struggled for so long. I just, I wished I'd get here, but I never really thought I'd actually be sitting here having this conversation. So dig deep and, if you're thinking about doing it, then you can't go wrong if you bet on yourself. It's yourself. Like, do it for yourself.
What did you think would happen when you read that book on the plane?
I don't know. I knew I was going to do everything in my power to go all in. I knew that, but I guess I'd had so many years of not reaching the goal that I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. And it sounds so crazy, Akash. Like sometimes I think about it, I'm just like, when I first started, I was like, I was doing less activity than what I was doing before, right? It was just like, there were those first few weeks, I was like, this is it? Like, this is what I signed up for? Like, what? I'm doing less.
Eat more, move less.
Yeah, I was like, I don't understand. She's giving me so much food and she's telling me to work out less than I was doing before. And like, that was a mindset shift in itself. Conversations with Chloe about that. She was like, trust the process, it'll work. And I was like, I'm having a hard time trusting. It's just because I was so used to moving for so long and just do, right? But how much stress was I putting on my body, right? And maybe that's why I'm struggling right now in consolidation too, because I've been so conditioned to do more for so long. And how many of us have, right? How much of society is built on move more, eat less. But you don't actually need to do that. And this program proves that it works. You really don't need to starve yourself. I never felt hungry during this process, really, truly never felt hungry. And you don't have to work out 6 days a week. You really don't until the very end, but you really don't.
Yeah. I mean, I've been guilty of that over the years. So back in the day, my training would be like 6 days a week cardio, 20,000 steps, turn the whole kitchen sink at it. And then in the more recent years, it's completely done a 180. And I get better results now than ever before. So it's a weird one. It's a weird one because we're so conditioned to like, how hard can we push ourselves in the gym?
And that's unsustainable.
How hungry can we feel?
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, no, it's not sustainable. How you can't do that for life. Like it's fine if you do it for a couple of weeks where you push all in, right? And that's what the intent of the grind is. But you can't do that for life. Like nobody could be, moving and have that much activity every single day.
What almost kept you from joining, Payal?
Fear of failure, I would say. fear of, I'm going to sign up for a year, and what if this doesn't work? Fear of online coaching, right? I mentioned that before, like how, I've tried all these things. I've even had coaches that were local. Not that we met in person, but still, it's like the idea that they're local. It was truly that fear of, well, what does that mean? I actually didn't know anybody that had done RNT before. So it was a fear of that. But it really doesn't matter. I mean, in this day and age of technology, it really doesn't matter. Like, your coach could be anywhere. And as long as you're getting the support and you are putting in the work, like, the results will come.
How did you get over your fear of failure?
I had to remind myself that everything I had been trying all these years wasn't working anyway. So this, like, what do I have to lose? Right? Like, I've tried all these things. And, and also reframing the past 6 years. Like, I don't want it to come across as the last 6 years I failed at anything, because I didn't. Each step in the journey brought me closer to success. I feel like it brought me closer to hitting my checkpoint in 5 months. That's the way I reframed it in my mind, is every step. Like, so for example, one of the things I tell my friends was those 2 years that I spent at the strength training gym, it gave me the confidence in doing strength training exercises, understanding form, understanding progressive overload, so that I could hit the ground running with RNT week 1, because when I had to work out in the basement, I already knew the movements. Like, I already knew what a bench press was. I already knew what a squat was. I already knew how it was supposed to feel. Sure, Chloe corrected my form and made it more precise. And, those videos definitely helped in that sense, but I wasn't starting from square one, right? I was starting from a place where, so I feel like this is a lifelong journey, and each thing brought me closer.
Amazing. Any final words for the listeners?
Bet on yourself. You can't, just do it. It's an amazing feeling, like reaching some goals. If you have these goals and you truly have these goals, you can't lose. Like, just go all in and just do it, because it's just an amazing feeling. I'm so glad I did it.
Amazing. Well, you've had an amazing journey so far, and I'm excited to see you crush those pull-ups, chin-ups, and bench presses in the next year.
No, I hope so. One day.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing your journey, Payal.
Yeah, thank you, Akash.